Containment Protocol Omega. I wasn't the kind of man who believed in monsters. Not back then. Not when I was working third shift as a corrections officer down in Jackson, Georgia. Not when I spent 10 years locking up rapists, murderers, and the worst of what our species had to offer. I used to think monsters were just metaphors, something a preacher might say from a pulpit, or a tired phrase used in headlines to sell papers. But real monsters? Nah. Until I got offered a job at a place called SCIC, Subterranean Containment and Intelligence Command. No website, no government listing. Just a business card slipped under my door with a phone number and the words, "We know what you saw. Let's talk." See, after that riot in 2021, I left the force. Couldn't sleep right. Couldn't drink enough to forget. Young kid named Avery, first month on the job, took a shank to the neck during the blackout. I froze, didn't even pull my weapon, just watched him bleed. I guess SSCIC likes men with ghosts in their closets. The interview wasn't an interview, it was a contract. Thick, bleeding red stamp on the front. Top secret. Clearance black. They offered 6 figures, hazard pay, and full medical. All I had to do was agree to never speak about what I was going to see. Ever. I signed, because part of me didn't care anymore. The other part just needed the money. They brought me in blindfolded, drove for hours. The air changed somewhere between Idaho and Montana. Got colder. Still. The facility looked like a bunker married a slaughterhouse. All metal corridors and biometric locks. Cameras everywhere, but no windows. I met my shift partner, Luis, who grinned like he'd already lost his mind. Tech guy, loved bad jokes, and had 3 kids he never shut up about. Mick was our lead. Ex-Delta, skin like leather, and a permanent chew bulge in his cheek. Carried a sawed-off shotgun and a cyanide pill in a glass tube around his neck. Just in case, he'd say. My job? Monitor and guard the units. Not prisoners. Not inmates. Cryptids. That's what they called them. Things that shouldn't exist. Things no one ever talks about in the open. But SCIC doesn't just talk about them. They trap them, study them. Keep them in the dark like old secrets. Unit 03, the Wendigo. Looked like a corpse that starved to death and kept on starving. Antlers like branches dipped in blood. Didn't breathe. Didn't blink. It whispered sometimes, in my mother's voice. Unit 07, the Dogman. 8-foot bipedal nightmare. Canine muzzle. Humanoid body covered in thick black fur. Red eyes that glowed in the dark. It paced. Constantly. Even when sedated, it growled, like it knew it was only a matter of time. Unit 11. Goatman. Walked like a man, laughed like a demon. Twisted horns, human hands. Loved to whisper secrets. Things you didn't know anyone else could know. Remember when you wished your brother was dead, it said once. I nearly shot the damn containment glass. Unit 15. The werebear. Massive. 9 feet. Easily half a ton of muscle and bone. Oddly calm. It liked Bach. Mick used to play him cello music. Swore it helped. Most shifts were dull. Monitors, patrols, and pretending the air didn't smell like rust and ammonia. But that Tuesday night, everything changed. Power went out at 2:03 a.m. First, it was just the lights. Then the hum of the generators cut. Then the silence. Red emergency lights blinked on. Luis muttered, "No, no, no, no," and slammed keys on his console. Systems were dead. Doors started unlocking on their own. I could hear the locks disengaging. Click, click, click. Then the alarm. Not the usual one. Deep, guttural tone that vibrated through your bones. Omega breach detected. Containment compromised. The monitors flickered. One showed the Wendigo standing in the center of its cell, staring straight into the camera. It smiled. Another showed Dogman already out, slumped guard beneath it torn in half. Luis dry heaved. I grabbed my sidearm and yelled for him to follow. We didn't make it to the armory, found Harris instead. Or at least his top half. His lower half was down the hall, twitching. Luis bolted for the control room. I headed toward the containment wing. I shouldn't have. Dogman versus goatman. I saw the Dogman first. Towering, eyes glowing, sniffing. Then the goatman's laughter echoed down the hall in my voice. Dogman lunged. The goatman shrieked something guttural, slashing with clawed fingers. Blood sprayed the walls. Dogman slammed it into the wall hard enough to leave a dent. Bit into its neck. Ripped. The goatman died, gargling a laugh. Wendigo versus werebear. Mick was alive. Barely. We limped toward Unit 15, heard the roars before we saw it. The werebear was locked in combat with the Wendigo. Claw versus bone. Flesh versus death. Wendigo was faster. Slashed the werebear's stomach open. Guts spilled. It didn't stop fighting. Then the Wendigo whispered something, and the werebear froze. Just for a second. It was enough. Wendigo gutted it from chest to groin. The roar stopped. Mick tried to shoot. Wendigo turned and hurled something. It was Luis's face. Mick screamed. Didn't stop. I dragged Mick toward the atrium. He was bleeding from his stomach, crying about his daughter. Everything was red. Lights. Blood. My vision. Radio said nothing. Just static. Maybe I was the last. Then the Wendigo's voice came over the intercom. You let him die. You wanted to. Avery. I dropped to my knees. For a moment I thought about using Mick's pill. Then the howling started again. Dogman. Close. But the Wendigo's voice kept whispering. They're waiting for you in hell. I got up. Atrium was torn to hell. Water from burst pipes flooded the floor. Sparks rained from the ceiling. I climbed into the busted observation booth. Locked the door. Pressed record on the log recorder. Dogman arrived first. Limbs shaking. One eye missing. Fur soaked in blood. Wendigo dropped from the rafters like a shadow torn from God. They clashed. Teeth, claws, antlers, roars that split concrete. Dogman gouged Wendigo's side. Wendigo impaled Dogman through the chest with broken metal. Blood. So much blood. Dogman tackled it into a wall, ripping at ribs. Wendigo bent its neck like an owl and bit Dogman's throat out. Both fell. Still. Then Wendigo twitched, crawled, half a skull left. One arm, still moving. It vanished into the maintenance tunnel. Gone. I don't know how long I've been sitting here. I think they're all dead. The Wendigo is out. Maybe the Dogman too. I'm leaving this log for whoever finds it, if anyone does. Burn this place, salt the ground, and pray they don't come back. Because monsters are real, and we were dumb enough to try and keep them. Thanks for watching another chilling tale here on Cryptid Encounter Stories. If you enjoyed the story, like, subscribe, and drop a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts and theories. And if you're hungry for more supernatural thriller, be sure to grab a copy of Fall of the Order, available now in ebook, audiobook, and paperback. Until next time, stay safe and stay in the light.